let Mr. Sexton sit in the witness box,
Okay.
and you can stand next to him.
I want you to sit in that seat all the way up there. Try to see.
Yep. This matter was set in for a status conference. We were last here on February the 22nd. Ms. Varda, Assistant State's Attorney Varda, asked that the case be scheduled today so that we can assess where this case is going. This was after the receipt in open court of the latest assessment by a social worker at the Veterans Administration. The history, of course, is here that Mr. Sexton was found incompetent on November the 16th of last year and released on pretrial conditions under the monitoring and supervision of pretrial. That is Ms. Hamilton, who is here in the courtroom. That finding resulted after Mr. Sexton's lawyer I believe he filed a plea of not criminally responsible. Mr. Sexton was, the original charges date back to July 27, 2010, when the defendant was released on bond. A plea of not criminally responsible was filed on July the 19th, 2011. This court signed an order for an immediate evaluation. Per the statute, Mr. Sexton was seen at Court Medical. Court Medical requested an extension so that Mr. Sexton could be evaluated by the staff at Clifton T. Perkins Medical Center or Hospital Center. This court signed an order for that extension and further evaluation, and this court received a report dated September 15th, 2011, which opined, after an outpatient evaluation, that the defendant was incompetent and not dangerous. However, Perkins did not include an order with conditions of release. The case on October 5th was postponed while this court got in touch with the Community Forensic Aftercare Program. Ms. Boggins, Assistant Public Defender Sharon Boggins, volunteered to get in touch with Perkins. It was reset for October the 31st, 2011. Once again, there were no conditions of release. They had been prepared at Perkins, but apparently CFAP has relinquished its monitoring role now to pretrial services, and it was agreed that Ms. Hamilton, a pretrial, would do the monitoring. At that time, I did not make a finding because I did not have the final order. The competency assessment that this court received did not assess restorability, and its only diagnosis for the defendant was cognitive disorder, not otherwise specified, and there was no diagnosis of dementia. Mr. Silverstein said he was awaiting a neurologist report from the Veterans Administration. A referral had been made for an assessment as to dementia and neurodegenerative disease. On November the 16th, 2011, this case was back before this court. The court had the conditions of release, and Madam Clerk, I made the finding on November 16th. Is that correct? Oh, she's not here. Okay. Dr. Beans from Clifton T. Perkins Hospital was filed in the court file under seal, as well as the order with conditions of release, which was filed in the court file, which included conditions that the defendant obtain a neurological evaluation and other conditions regarding monitoring and staying away from children, except unless it was supervised. We have since then had 1, 2, 3 status hearings, and each time, I would say, until the last one, we had been awaiting further evaluations from the Veterans Administration. On December the 13th, 2011, this court received, or was ahead of the hearing, Mr. Silverstein sent this court the consultation report of Dr. Mark Testa, the neuropsychologist at the Veterans Administration, which did describe the evaluation that was done along with the psychological testing that was conducted at the VA. Then we postponed it to find out what the plan was going to be, because all along we really didn't have a treatment plan, and we expected to get that treatment plan from the Veterans Administration. The next hearing on February the 22nd of this year, we received another report, which was a social work assessment, a psychosocial assessment. And while it describes the source of the referral as being neuropsychology, referred to, quote unquote, retrain his memory, as I understand it, the Veterans Administration, neither the neurologist nor the social worker nor the somatic doctor has actually referred Mr. Sexton for any memory retraining therapy. It's my understanding from Ms. Hamilton that he's been given exercises to do at home, but the only treatment he's been referred to is a walk-in clinic at the VA, basically for stress management.
Let me just ask.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. We didn't know about that.
And I actually pulled that one.
All right. Well, thank you for offering that, Mr. Sexton. At the last hearing, what kind of medicine? Have you filled the prescription yet? You've been taking it? Okay.
I'm sure
All
it's
right,
good.
thank you. I don't think this has the mood medicine, does it? Warfarin, which is, I believe, an anticoagulant. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mirtazapine, Remeron. Oh, Remeron, that's an antidepressant. That's it. Okay. I didn't recognize the chemical name. Is this for me?
Yes, it is.
Silverstein?
And I've shown it to you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Well, in any event, at the last hearing on February 22nd, the state asked that the matter be continued until today for the purpose of reviewing these various reports and so that we can assess where this case is going to go. So, Ms. Varda, have you had an opportunity to do that?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I have had the opportunity to review. I reviewed the 3 reports, Your Honor, the one from T. Perkins, as well as the neuropsychological consultation notes, and the final report that we received in the last hearing, the psychosocial assessment. And, Your Honor, after reviewing these 3 reports, the state has noticed that there are some inconsistencies among the therefore, we're not satisfied that this is an accurate assessment of Mr. Sexton's abilities, and therefore we're asking that the court order an additional evaluation. I believe if you read the reports, they suggest additional evaluations as well, Your Honor. And state is also asking that the evaluation be done inpatient so that we can get a very thorough, detailed report as far as Mr. Sexton's abilities go.
Right. Well, I'll give you a chance to comment in a moment, certainly, Mr. Silverstein, but what I noted, because the court as well, after the last hearing, took the newest consultation report and compared it to the Perkins report as well as the neuropsychological evaluation report. And at the outset, Perkins did not diagnose Mr. Sexton with dementia. And while reserved on that opinion, because the exact cause of his cognitive problems was unknown. And there are some reversible forms of cognitive impairment that mimic dementia. Therefore, a diagnosis of a dementia disorder is not made or should not be made until all causes are thoroughly investigated. And that's why the Perkins psychiatrist diagnosed Mr. Sexton with cognitive disorder not otherwise specified. Now, while I guess one might say that the neurological consultation was intended to help elicit the cause, it really didn't, because that's a very difficult thing to do, obviously. The neurologist and his fellow did a round of psychological testing, but the neurologist, I think, referred Mr. Sexton back to his medical doctor at the VA because the neuropsychologist noted that he made a recommendation that the, I hope I say this right, methylmalonic acid levels be evaluated in order to further evaluate B12 absorption and rule out a possible reversible cause of dementia. Now, it's my understanding, based upon our conferencing in this case, that since the neuropsychological evaluation, those levels have not been obtained. Is that correct? Okay. Also, there was a suggestion that for an audiology referral. Has that been?
A referral was made, but no appointment.
No appointment. All right. While the neuropsychological evaluation referred to a CAT scan, and I don't know how old that CAT scan was, the description of the arteriosclerotic damage that's shown by the CAT scan isn't connected with any cognitive impairment by the neuropsychologist. So the neuropsychologist says, well, he did find memory loss. He also made some other findings, which I think are the cause of the concern here. And he said he will likely have to be followed longitudinally for diagnostic clarity. But as I understand it, while Mr. Sexton is supposed to see the neurologist again, that's off in the future as well. Is that correct?
I do. I don't know the exact date of the report.
Do you know when you're going to see your neurologist next? are you in traffic for? It's been a long time. You get a citation for something? Yeah. All right. Meter tickets. Okay. All right. In any event, things are not moving along as I would like them to in terms of getting additional evaluations. And Mr. Sexton is coming up on his 6th month status, and in every case in which I make a finding of incompetency, I receive a reevaluation after 6 months. So Mr. Sexton must be reevaluated. Because further psychological testing might be appropriate, because testing such as an MRI or even a PET scan might be appropriate, according to a neuropsychologist I've discussed this with. I share the state's view that an inpatient evaluation would be much more thorough, would, after all, the outpatient one lasted 2 hours. So I have talked to the people at Perkins who agree, and of course, Mr. Silverstein, that's just a preliminary conversation, and we have conferenced this, but I certainly will hear from you.
Your Honor, as I said when we conferenced, I'm not objecting to the need for a plan. I'm not objecting to the need for a reevaluation. I'm just objecting to the manner in which Your Honor wants to do it. I believe that it can be done. I certainly don't know as much as Your Honor. The things Your Honor wants to be done could be done on an outpatient basis to him just going back. But as I said, Your Honor knows more than me, so I would object to the manner, not to the fact.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have always had a preference for inpatient evaluations, and it seems to me that outpatient ones tend to be done when the defendant is out on bail. If the defendant's being held in jail, Perkins does some outpatient evaluations. I'm not sure how it falls. Perkins made the choice to do the outpatient. Since I think there is potentially a lot of work to be done on this, I think it's more prudent to do the inpatient. Is there anything from the clinical side over here? No? All right. In that event, let's talk about dates. I think they need at least 30 days, but 30 days puts us into, I would prefer to be residing that day. So if we set it for May 9th, we may well get a report well in advance of May 9th. And I promised you that if it comes in the next to last week of April, that we'll set it in because Judge Reed is presiding on April the 18th, and I don't think it's appropriate, since he's just learning about this case, to have him handle it. I would prefer to handle it.
May 9th is a good day for me, and what I've told my client is if the report comes in earlier, the court will do whatever it can to bring it in earlier.
That's correct. All right, so I guess I should make a copy of this for the sheriff. Madam Clerk, would you put her, Rebecca?
Your eyes need to be signed.
Would you have him sign it and do the Social Security number? I attempted to talk to the doctor at the VA myself, a neuropsychologist, but he wanted a release, or regional counsel of the VA wanted a release, so Mr. Sexton's executing it now. Yeah. Well, they can both sign as far as I'm concerned. Did he sign other releases?
She signed a release for my office. I don't know what he did for anyone else.
Ms. Hamilton, do you have a release for Mr. Sexton or his wife?
I do have one in my court.
Do you know who signed it?
Actually, I think it's
Okay. Mr. Sexton, this just says, this gives me permission, Mr. Sexton. I asked Mr. Silverstein if I could talk to the doctor today, and he said fine. But the doctor needs your permission. Is it all right if I talk to Dr. Teska? Mr. Silverstein said yes.
I said it's okay for the judge to talk to them.
Okay, well, as long as you're okay, I need your permission. So if you would sign that release, please.
Need your signature. Right here. And you now have to get a social security number.
Excuse me?
It really is 3 yeah.
Oh, thank you. No, that's mine. Okay. Would you ask Michelle? She's going to do an order for the evaluation at Perkins. All right. Anything further? So we'll schedule this for May the 9th. Council, did each of you, I felt ethically bound to share with you the letter that I received from one of the alleged victims in the case. Did you receive it?
I did receive that letter.
Mr. Silverstein, did you receive the letter that I forwarded
I
to
did.
you? All right.
I did.
Because of judicial ethics, it's not appropriate for me to respond to it, but I wanted particularly the state to have it because it seems to me that Jerry Jones, who's the lawyer, the felony attorney who has the case, that he have a copy of it, and obviously if I share it with the state, I have to share it with the defense.
We do have your honor, I have spoken with the defense about the matter.
All right, Madam Clerk, my assistant, Ms. Chavis, who is always 5 steps ahead of me, was in touch with a contact at Perkins about the sending of it. But we have to have it in. You've got to call and say this is a direct admit. Okay. Did you read him the list of medications? How did they know? How did Lawrence know that?
From the prior evaluation.
Oh, okay.
From the prior.
All right. Because Mr. Sexton is on Coumadin, Perkins wants him to go to Spring Grove because to go directly to a medical unit. And I would assume you would have no opposition to that. But now we've got to make an extra call to make sure there is right. Yes. Okay, and could you put Tracy? Yeah. All right. Yes. And Sheriff, may I see you? You'll take it. All right.
Drive?
Yes. Yeah, it's there. Thank you. Anything further on Mr. Sexton's matter?
Would you like us to wait around and we find out from Spring Road?
If you like, that
Because I guess
would probably be a good idea.
what would happen if Spring Road doesn't have availability? I guess we can.
Then I'm going to get on the phone to Perkins and say you're going to take him today.
Okay.
Mr. Silverstein, if